Acts chapter 12, verse 1 to 11. Now about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church. And he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword, and because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God for him. And when Herod would have brought him forth, the same night Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison. And behold, the angel of the Lord came upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and smote Peter on the side, and raised him up, saying, Arise up quickly. And his chains fell off from his hands. The angel said unto him, Gird thyself, and bind on thy sandals. And he said, and so he did. And he saith unto him, Cast thy garment about thee, and follow me. And he went out and followed him, and wist not that it was true which was done by the angel, but thought he saw a vision. When they were past the first and second ward, they came unto the iron gate that leadeth unto the city, which opened to them of its own accord. And they went out and passed on through one street, and forthwith the angel departed from him. And when Peter was come to himself, he said, Now I know of a surety that the Lord hath sent his angel, and hath delivered me out of the hand of Herod, and from all the expectations of the people of the Jews. My thought for you is simply this: freedom, but a choice away. Freedom, but a choice away.
Amen.
You may be seated. As I contemplated, I'm not a pastor or a preacher that follows trends. I don't try to do things because everybody else does. Every time we come here, there's a word.
Amen.
This is God's church. It's not mine. I am nothing more than a messenger. I carry the mail. It's His messages, and He has a word He wants to say. So as I was thinking and as I was meditating upon this, I just felt like the Lord kind of directed me to the Declaration of Independence. It's been a while since I read it. And so I was sitting outside, and I was just drinking a cup of coffee, watching the hummingbirds come by and drink from our little hummingbird feeders. And as I read it, it just got a hold of me. So I began to dig in a little more. I began to dig into a little bit about that, and I found some things out I did not know. And as I began to dig into them, I felt like the Lord was saying, this is what you need to tell the church today. This is what you need to tell the people of God. July 4, 1776 was the day by which the colonies declared officially, in writing, their independence from Great Britain. Most of us are under the same assumption that it was after this writing that the colonies, who had had enough of King George, that it was after this declaration that they rallied everyone to the cause, that they began to fight for freedom and the initiating of the battle that would be the battle for the independence of these 13 colonies that eventually would become the United States of America. Yet that would not be accurate. Allow me to explain. The colonies had basically been ignored by the British Crown for about 100 years. This neglect gave the colonies their first taste of what freedom felt like. 1607, Virginia was established. Then 1620, New England by the Pilgrims. It wasn't until 1763, after an expensive war with the French, that the Crown decided to make some changes. Those changes would involve establishing policy and British laws, as well as heavy taxation upon the colonies, who again was used to being ignored. The rejection by the colonies to submit led to the war for which the crown attempted to break their will and bring them back into servitude. This was the war by which the colonies began their fight for independence. The issue here that demands our attention is this. All of this happened 15 months before the Declaration of Independence was crafted, agreed to, and signed. The battle for freedom was already underway. 15 months it had been being fought on the American soil. So why did it take so long for them to draft the document? I mean, you're at war for independence, but you've not drafted the document that states your grievance and states why you're doing it. Why? Why did they not do it? Here's the reason. Choice. It was choice. Because you see, the 13 colonies could not stand what King George had done to them. They could not stand the tyranny. They did not like the taxation without representation. They did not like the fact that when Britain put their soldiers on the soil, they just simply had to walk up to your house and you had to give them your bed and you had to feed them. They didn't like it. They didn't like nothing about it. They said, we're so far away from the crown right now that there's no reason why this tyrant should be ruling us from over the sea. But when it came to fighting, many of them said, I don't know if I want to do that. Excuse me? You're sitting in your house and you're griping, you're complaining about what King George is doing. You're griping about the tyranny. You're griping about the change he's putting on you. But you're doing it behind a closed door when it comes to doing something about it. You're saying, I don't know if I want to get involved.
Come on.
The reason why it took 15 months to get these people united together with just a majority because some of them still refused to do it. The reason being is some of them, they hated what he was doing, but they were comfortable in their misery.
Come on. Come on.
They were comfortable with, you know what, just let it pass. We're not going to worry. We don't want to get involved in this war. Somebody's going to die. Our children. Here's the deal, folks. If you want to be free, it's going to cost you something.
Come on.
I'm going to say that again. If you want to be free, whatever is attacking you, whatever's coming against you, if you want to be free, there is no freedom without a fight. You have to fight if you want to be free. Because if you're not willing to fight, then you're going to simply be somebody behind the doors, griping and complaining, but yet allow yourself to be the servant of the thing you despise. I'm talking about what motivated them to get up and say enough is enough. We got to unite together. We got to stand. We got to fight. Freedom is worth it. Liberty is worth it. Hear me in this building. The enemy would love nothing more than to bring the child of God back into bondage. He would love nothing more than what God has pulled you out of to slowly and methodically begin to lead you back to the prison cell. He would love nothing more than to get a hold of you. And if God's delivered you from drugs, slowly get you wound right back into it. He would love, if you have been delivered from alcohol, He would love to slowly, systematically get you back entwined. And if it's not that, He would love to find another chain that He can put upon you. But I'm here to let somebody know there is no freedom in the Spirit without a fight. I don't know the exact days of how long Peter was in that prison cell. I don't know how all of the details. All we have is what the Bible gives us. But what we do know is this, that Peter was in a prison cell, the innermost part of the prison that was reserved for the most violent, the most despised, the political prisoner, and he had one wrist chained to a soldier, and he had one leg chained to that same soldier, and he had the other wrist chained to another soldier, and the other leg to another soldier. In other words, I think you get it. He was bound up.
Amen.
There was no way for him to physically get free. But I'm here to let somebody know. Somebody begin to pray for him. Somebody begin to intercede. And while Peter is in the prison cell, while Peter is chained to these guards, an angel comes in to the prison, smokes him on the side. Now I'm going to let you know, I don't really know what smote you on the side is. But I get this from the scripture. It wasn't pleasant. It was something to where it was either he came, and I'm just being honest, it don't tell us how he could have walked up and kicked him in the side. I don't know. He could have came over and smacked him. Whatever it was enough of a jolt and enough of pain to get him to startle out of sleep and to wake up from where he is. First of all, here's my problem. Why in the world, when you're in the prison, are you asleep? Oh, come on, somebody. Why are you asleep? That's our problem. When the enemy systematically begins to put walls around us, begins to put prison cells up, when he begins to put chains on us, for some reason, we get a little numb. We get a little on the relaxed side. We get comfortable in the environment. And the thing that should be literally rocking us to our soul, I don't want to spend the rest of my life here. I don't want to be bound up. I don't want to be a prisoner. Somehow, some way, we fall asleep in the prison. Peter had to be sacked by the angel to get him to stand up. And here's the kicker. Some of us are laying down in our situations. Some of us are just accepting what comes our way. And the chain is being forged around our ankles and on our wrists. And God's saying, wake up, stand up, get up. If you'll get up, if you'll stop sleeping in your situation, the chains will fall off. Hear me, somebody. There is no chain the devil can fashion that can keep a child of God unless he falls asleep in the situation. Your trial will never be to your destruction unless you choose to fall asleep in your problem. You will never be defeated in your sickness. You'll never be defeated in the darkness as long as you do not allow the devil to lull you to sleep. You stop praying. You stop coming to the house of God. You stop fasting. You stop getting together with your brothers and your sisters. You start shutting down everything around you. You start trying to live for God on the TV set. Oh, come on now. You start trying to turn on a television channel and you start trying to swap that for your walk with God. Honey, I know the darkness can be overwhelming. I know that the darkness can literally take the breath out of you. But you got to hear me. You got to get up from where you are. You cannot sit down. You cannot take it easy. But you got to get up. You got to pray. You got to fast. And you got to shake off the chains. No chain can be put on a child of God as long as they don't fall asleep in the situation. There is nothing greater than to have somebody praying for you. Amen. See, the problem is when the devil gets you in the midst of your darkness, when he gets you in the midst of that prison cell, and even though you hear the sound of the devil's building the bars that's going to become the gate and become the lock that holds you in, even though you hear the grinding of the metal and you know what he's doing, you're still in the midst of the darkness and you feel so overwhelmed and you feel so alone and you just wish somebody knew how much you're carrying and you just wish somebody else cared. Honey, hear me, in this building the Bible says that God has intercessors that he has put all around you. You may not even know who you get in the lowest moments and you feel like you can't get up, God will wake up an intercessor and go, maybe not even give them your name, but I says, I need you to intercede. I've got a child of God in the midst of the darkness. They're in the midst of a heavy burden. They're in the midst of great sickness, and I need you to intercede. Honey, many of us in this building right now, you would not be here if God didn't wake somebody up at some point in your life when you were lost and undone and said, I need you to pray for somebody. There is nothing greater than to have an intercessor laying in the gap for you. That's one of the reasons as a pastor I tell you all the time, get somebody's phone number. Be praying with them. And if God pricks your soul, go to prayer for them. Give them a call and let them know, hey, I don't know what you're going through today, but I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know I've been praying for you. I've been interceding for you. We can't make it on our own. The devil cannot take us captive as long as we're fighting. But there's something about this day. I don't understand it. I was talking to Sister Marla about this just a couple days ago. When the Lord gives us a verse in the Bible, a very pointed verse, it's because He sees something coming down the road. And this verse is to say, wake up, church. Get the sleep out of your eyes. Get yourself awake and alert. Understand this is on the horizon. And if you aren't paying attention, it's going to broadside you. It's going to slowly come against you. And you may not even catch it until it's too late. People hurting and broken. And God, I feel so alone. But when it comes to being in church, they're not here. Come on. Forsake not the assemblings of yourselves together, that such as some do, especially as you see the day approaching. Why would you say that? And if you look at that verse of Scripture, it's almost like, plop, God just dropped it in there. Why is that? God says the enemy's going to come in and he's going to try and build a prison. He's going to try and isolate you. He's going to try and pull you away from the body of God. Because you see, there's something crazy about the way God has made us. He has made us that when me and you get together, people of like precious faith, I get stronger. Amen. I get stronger. I find strength that I didn't have before. I can come into the church house and literally feel like I've got myself by the collar. You know, have you ever seen those cartoons where the guy picks himself up by the collar and drags himself in? We've all done that. There's some of you, it was today. And you got here. But the thing about it is, we're fighting. And we're trying to make heaven a home. But the enemy is setting traps every morning. I went out to the window a couple days ago. Got here, I made up my mind, I've established in my consecration. I get up at about 7, I read for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I come to the church the next half an hour to 40 minutes, I'm in the sanctuary praying. Changes your day if you'll do that. But this particular day, I pulled the blind in the back because I wanted light to come to the sanctuary. And as I looked out upon the parking lot, I saw some weird things out there. I saw these little patches of white all over the gravel. So I got to looking at that and I felt the Lord just prick my heart. He said that those are spiders. All night long they have been setting their traps. All night long they have been intricately weaving these so that they could catch their prey unaware. He said, my children do not understand it. But while they slumber and they sleep, the enemy is intricately weaving the traps for your next day. He is intricately weaving the thing that he's going to do his best to bring you into bondage with. If you're not praying, if you're not in His Word, if you are not with the people of God, you are going to walk blindly into one of those traps and you're going to fall and you may not recover. I'm here to let somebody know you are a child of God. You are a blue blood. You are royalty. You are a peculiar treasure. You can never be replaced by anyone. But you must understand, the enemy is like a roaring lion. He will not give up on you. And he wants to bring you into bondage. Peter, you have a choice to make. Yeah, the chains fell off your hands. That's awesome. That's wonderful. But you got a choice to make. Are you going to walk around in the prison a free man? Or are you going to go the full way? You see, this is what baffles me. In 29 years of ministry, I have watched people come to the altar. I have watched them fall into the altar and say, God, I don't want to do this no more. God, I don't want to be a slave to this addiction no more. I don't want to be a slave to sin no more. And watch them get up and know God has taken the chain off of them. But then watch them for a couple weeks as they begin to grab the chain and put it back on their wrist. They begin to walk around in the prison, and though the door is half open, they're going, but I'm comfortable. This is my life. This is the way it's been for 20 years. Oh Lord, my friends, you mean I got to walk away from them? Hear me, somebody. If they're not going where you're going, they're going to take you where they're going. You were not called of God to be a slave. You were not called of God to be brought back into bondage. But you got to wake up. You got to wake up in your trial. You got to wake up in your test. And you got to understand the enemy is plotting your downfall. He does not sleep. He does not slumber. He does not take vacation. And he never, ever will stop until the last breath is out of our bodies. Hear me, somebody. Pray. Fast. The Word of God. The church house. We can't do it alone. If you will follow God, if you will make up in your mind you'll fight, not only are the chains going to fall off of you, but God's going to miraculously open the doors. Amen. God will walk you out of where you are right now. Amen. These things that are around you right now, somebody, you need to hear me. These things that are around you right now are demanding your eyes and your attention, because if it can keep your five senses focused upon them, then your faith is going to grow weak. If you will begin to get into prayer, if you will seek God regardless of what's going on around you and screaming, you can never be free. If you will get into prayer, if you will fast, I promise you God will do miracles that will blow your mind. You cannot be brought into bondage if you will fight. As I studied out this small group of people that decided we're not going to be servants and we're not going to be pulled back into bondage. You know, they could have stayed and said, you know what, they're far enough away. Let's just go ahead and pacify and give a little money. And then just, you won't bother us anymore. It's okay. We'll stay in the prison, but we'll just be able, we don't have to change on anymore. We can just learn to live in our misery. George Washington and these men decided that that's just not for us. And when you decide to fight with him, when you decide that you're not going to stay in the prison and you're walking out, God will do what you can't do. August 27, 1776, a little over a month after the official Declaration of Independence was signed, they eventually got it to George Washington, and he read it verbatim to his troops of about 10,000 men. They entered into what was called the Battle of Brooklyn Heights. It was the largest battle that would be fought. It was on Long Island. Washington was expecting an attack by sea, so he positioned his troops as such. But the British brought more troops than what they had. And the British decided to come by the pass of Jamaica, and they ambushed them from behind. The British lost 400 men. George Washington lost 3,000. Hopelessly outnumbered. They had no hope. The harbor was full of ships. There's no way. This is their first real battle. George Washington remembered, though, about 3 months before, on May 17th, the Continental Congress called the nation to fast, pray, and repent before God. George Washington got a crazy idea. George Washington said, here's what we'll do. In the cover of night, we will transport 8,000 men to Manhattan by river, by ferry. By the time the sun was coming up, only 4,000 had made it. 4,000 now were on the shore and they were going to die. But something happened. When you decide to fight with God, when you decide you're not going to sit down and take the easy road, God will not allow you to be defeated. I quote from Major Ben Talmadge, Washington's chief of intelligence, and he wrote this. As the dawn of the next day approached, those of us who remained in the trenches became very anxious for our own safety. And when the dawn appeared, there were several regiments still on duty. At this time, a very dense fog began to rise off the river. It seemed to settle in a peculiar manner over both encampments. I recollect this peculiar providential occurrence perfectly well. And so very dense was the atmosphere that I could scarcely discern a man at 6 yards distance. We tarried until the sun had risen, but the fog remained as dense as ever. He said, we were there 4,000 men. We knew we were in the will of God. But he said there was no hope in the natural. He said the fog usually comes in at the night. And as the sun comes up, the sun burns the fog off. But this day, he said the fog arose with the sun and became more and more thick until our enemy couldn't see us. He said 4,000 men was able to be transferred over that river to Manhattan because our enemy couldn't see us for the fog. The devil is telling some of you, you're not going to make it through. He's telling you this trial and this test is going to be your prison. But I see something on the horizon. I see God's angels saying, oh, just don't stop praying. Don't stop seeking God. Don't get focused on the natural. Keep your eyes on Him. And I see it as the fog is building. God's going to bring you through. And I promise you this, when He brings you through, you will be shouting on the mountains. George Washington said this of the event, August 20, 1778, speaking of every miracle that came through that battle. The hand of providence has been so conspicuous in all this, the course of the war, that he must be worse than an infidel that lacks faith. He said, what I have seen our God do in bringing us through our battle, when the enemy wanted to incarcerate us and make us a slave, he said, I cannot help but believe in my Creator. You stand with me. I know what some of you are going through. There's some of you I don't know. But I'm here like the 13 men who traveled the colonies. The men that traveled to the 13 colonies. And faced down every man that said, I just want to hide until it's over. I just don't want to stir it up any more than I have to. And they said, but you've got to understand, if you're going to be free, you've got to fight. If you're going to be free, you can't take the easy road. And then he finally persuaded the majority. I'm here to persuade somebody in this building. The trial is not to your death. The situations are not to your imprisonment. If you will fight. If you will fight, you will be able to declare one day, God was the one in that service on July 3rd, 2016, that God declared to my enemy, I'm free. And I will not. Every head bowed and every eye closed. I have a proclamation for you today. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. If the Son shall therefore make you free, you are free indeed. Someone understand, it's going to require your fight, your persistency, never giving up, never allowing the natural to dictate the end of this course. Understanding the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. You got to dig in your prayer time. You got to push the wall back. You cannot sit easy in this thing. You need to understand the enemy is more afraid of you than you would ever realize. Because he understands you do not fight alone. And he understands that the weapons of your warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of every stronghold. You will come through. You will find a new place of anointing. Because God has declared it. Somebody just worship Him for a moment. Hallelujah. I'm looking for the one in the trial. I'm looking for the one that the enemy has hit you on the left and the right. I'm looking for the one that came in here today saying, Lord, I just don't know if I can take another step. I need you to step out from where you are. I need you to make your way to the front of this building.